In fitness, we use several different types of assessments to determine your level of fitness. Of course, we use weight, body mass index, agility drills, body fat testing. But have you ever thought about measuring your level of fitness by looking at your dog? Fitness and your pet today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. Thank you so much for joining us today on a rather exciting topic and a very interesting location. If you're watching us on social media, you're going to notice that I'm in a unique situation today, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I want to tell you, as always, how to get in touch with us. If you have any questions about health, fitness, or wellness, especially dispelling myths about health, fitness, or wellness, or you're interested in getting in touch with us about this show or have an idea for a show, please contact me at my email address, which is, of course, Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You can contact us via our website, which is Personal Edge Fitness, and our Facebook page, which, of course, Personal Edge Fitness. And obviously, my website's personaledgefitness.com. I must be having a lack of water or be affected by my surroundings, which I'll get to in just a minute. So, as always, you're welcome to call us at our mobile location, which is 251-341-0927. And, of course, Eastern Shore, which is 251-651-0927. Okay, why am I where I am, and what are we talking about today? How do you measure your level of fitness with your dog? Well, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about fitness, and he brought up something very interesting about a conversation he had with one of his customers dealing with their pet and their fitness and how it related to the owner's fitness. Now, we're going to get to that in just a second, but I first want to introduce my friend to the show. With me today is Dr. Mark Colicchio of Veterinary House Calls. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mark.
Thanks, Garrett.
All right, now, first thing, tell us a little bit about, where are we, Mark? Come on.
Right. Does this count as a remote podcast for you? Is it?
By the looks of it, we could be remote anywhere in this thing.
Well, we are in my mobile unit, which is actually 21 years old now.
Oh, wow.
Kind of hard to believe, but it's a specially designed mobile veterinary clinic that I had made from some folks in Iowa, and I've been working out of it for the past 21 years. So have a lot of capabilities in it as far as veterinary care.
You're basically doing just assessments here. You're not actually doing, x-rays and surgeries and stuff like that.
No, we do surgeries. We do. I don't have x-ray capabilities now, but we do general surgery.
Wow.
A lot of the things that you would find in a brick and mortar veterinary clinic. So,
Okay.
Plus, we come to you. So,
wow.
It adds a lot of convenience to a visit to the vet as well.
So you've got, looking back here, I can see now, if we look, like if you're on social media, you're seeing this. We're looking at is that examination table? Is that what I see there?
We've got two tables back there. One I use, if you're looking back there to your left, is a exam table with a dental operatory. So I can do dental cleanings and all that, oral surgery in that area on top of that table. That's actually a solid top that comes off, and it's like a wash-through table.
That's right here, like directly behind me,
correct?
Okay.
Yeah. And then further back is my surgery unit. It is a unit where I do general surgery, things like mass removals, spay neuters, things like that. I don't do orthopedics.
This is basically a full-service vet clinic here.
Yeah, it's pretty much what you would find in a clinic if you take your dog in.
I got you.
I don't provide overnight care. It's kind of hard to do with a mobile vet clinic.
I'm sure. Though you do have kennels here.
I do. I've got two dog kennels down here, and then over top of us, I've got two smaller kennels for cats or smaller animals.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Don't provide emergency service. I let the experts do that on Government Street at MedVet. So right now, I just provide service during regular business hours, which for me is by appointment. I don't do anything past 6 o'clock besides catch up on rest and things like that. So.
Right. Well, I'm going to get to that in just a minute and talk about the reason for a mobile vet unit and why why somebody would be interested in something like that. But if you don't mind, I want to jump back to this conversation we had the other day because I found it fascinating. After we talked, I thought about that's a whole different way of measuring fitness. So tell our listeners about what we were talking about the other day as far as measuring your fitness through your dog.
Well, it's pretty obvious sometimes when I walk in a house and I look at the owner and I look at the pet, and you can, in a lot of ways, determine their level of fitness by their visual observation. So,
right.
A lot of times if the owner is very active, the dog is very active as well, because they walk, they run, they do whatever outside, and
Sure.
they take their pet with them. So that's a very common occurrence where you'll see that dog is on the same level of fitness as the owner.
Right.
Conversely, if they're not very active, then I see in the pet a lot of times obesity.
Right.
That, if they're sedentary, then if you take an animal, especially a cat that's inside all the time, and they eat, they go to sleep, they get up, they eat, they go to sleep. So it's very easy for a cat, especially if they're fed free choice,
Right.
to get obese. In the same way with a dog, it's not hard to imagine how an animal, if it's not getting exercised, that it can really accumulate weight
Right.
pretty easily. So,
Well, without betraying any confidentiality,
Mhm.
the way you described it to me in that story, about advice you'd given about a pet, and then the owner had actually gone to their doctor or something.
she did. It was a situation where the dog was morbidly obese and was not, getting up or anything like
Right.
that. So first thing we do is establish a baseline of information, like exam, blood work, and everything. So on
Sure.
the blood work, it was discovered that the dog had hypothyroidism,
Oh, wow.
which
Yeah.
results in accumulated weight because they're not burning up that fat.
Right.
So we diagnosed the dog with that and put the dog on the appropriate medication, and within about 3 months, the dog had dropped about 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And the owner, like I said, was sitting there watching this happen for a couple of months. And we got to talking. She said, I went to my doctor not long ago, and they had diagnosed me with hypothyroidism, but I really hadn't gotten anything to treat it. And there was really no discussion on how to treat it. So I said, well, there's a lot of controversy as to where that stands in human medicine. So I suggested that she asked her doctor again, maybe do some other testing to more definitively diagnose it. So went back on another visit, and the owner told me that she went to her doctor, had more specific tests done, and she was hypothyroid, and put her on medication. The next time I went back there, she had dropped like 15 pounds. So,
Oh, man. That's fantastic.
and she actually had tears in her eyes. She was telling me this, I would never have gone back to the doctor because I was convinced that that's the way it was going to be. But she saw that in her pet, and, it's just an example of, you work and Stephanie work in rescue. You see people that foster animals, and
Right.
and they exercise with them, and they may, adopt a dog that's a little bit overweight,
Right.
and they see that
Right.
happen in their pet. They're losing weight, they're more active, and
Exactly.
it's an amazing thing to see when you incorporate that level of fitness that you have with your pet. It
Right.
makes a big difference,
Right.
in their longevity as well.
Well, I think that story, and I appreciate you relating that and getting into the details of it, because I thought it was an amazing story about a lifestyle change, mainly through somebody's pet. And I talk so many times on the show about the fact that we're very proud of the fact that we have the most qualified staff in the Southeast at Personalized Fitness, with all of our trainers having at least a bachelor's degree in the field of either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, or athletic training or sport medicine. And that's great, and we have two fantastic facilities. We do virtual training, we do corporate training, but the biggest thing we sell is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
What you were talking about a minute ago about the fact that basically her dog, getting her to make a lifestyle change, that's one of the best forms of accountability I've ever seen. So, that's tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
There was a quote, I think we were talking about it earlier, and I still haven't figured out who said it, but if your dog's out of shape, then you need to go for a walk. That makes perfect sense, and what
Sure.
have you. So, and of course that goes to, like you were saying earlier, about feeding your dog, and the same way you are with yourself. You were talking about free feeding,
Free choice feeding.
free
yeah.
choice feeding. So talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, because that relates to humans in a way too. I'll tie that in a second.
Well, it's probably more commonly seen in cats than in dogs, because
Right.
people will fill up a food bowl, and not measuring how much they give them, and just leave it in the bowl and let them eat all day long out of that bowl. And
Right.
when it looks empty, fill it back up again, and really have no accounting of how much food they've given them.
Sure.
And what that really ends up in happening is that pet's going to become obese.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I see, in dogs, it happens a lot, but it's difficult to really determine how much they're feeding them. They'll, go in the bag, fill up a coffee can of food and dump it in there, and,
Right.
and, oh yeah, he eats this amount, and I have no clue how much that is. And
Yeah.
it's really important to account for how much you're giving them, and the quality of the food as well. But,
Right.
just like us, we don't want to eat too much, and so I try and get owners to do several small meals a day instead of
Okay.
putting in the bowl in the morning and leaving it all day, and then because that way they can digest it easier,
gotcha.
and they actually don't get these peaks and troughs of the chemicals that control sugar in the blood and everything, and fat as well.
That's interesting because you're talking about one of my favorite things as far as nutrition is concerned. That is, first and foremost, controlling amounts. I mean, just controlling amounts, how important that is. Of course, we recommend to our clients, MyFitnessPal, and making sure we're measuring calories in, calories out. We talk about just like I say, just basic amounts. Stephanie's my wife, and as Mark mentioned, and he's been very gracious to help her and her agency, which is Save a Stray, and their mission to enhance the lives of the shelter pets of Mobile through education, through spay and neuter, and also through adoption. And Mark's been a big part of that, which I greatly appreciate. But she has actually used the feeding schedule as almost a training time. She's got them when she feeds. She has them on a schedule of feeding and then going out to use the restroom. So she's potty training them at the same time. She also, they know certain times a day because they're going to get fed then, so she can actually use that as times to teach them tricks, teach them sit and stay and what have you. I feel the scheduling is very important as far as that goes, and so I think it's interesting you talk about several meals throughout the day, what have you. So, okay, and there's something else there's some major parallels in our business and yours. Why would somebody want a mobile vet? Why do they call you? People ask me all the time, why do you want a personal trainer? Why do they want a mobile vet?
A lot of times they'll have multiple pets. And I don't know how many viewers that you have or listeners that you have that have tried to take 4 pets in their car to a vet.
I know one that's tried to do it, that's for sure. being a dink family with 4 pets, but go ahead.
It can be, it can take a day or so. It's just really a time-consuming event. So generally, when I come to your house, if I see 4 pets and I do exams and vaccinations, I'm pretty much gone within at the most 2 hours, and that's kind of not very common. But there's that part of it, the convenience of not having to take them in, waiting in the lobby while other pets are in there. And with that, a lot of times you don't know the vaccine status of those cats or dogs that are in the exam room. So for me, coming to your house, it kind of eliminates that realm of exposing your pet to other diseases.
And talking about exposing to other diseases and what have you, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now as far as COVID. That's got to play into this.
It sure has. I have since actually last February been going nonstop. And a lot of that, I think, I can attribute to the status of area clinics.
Right.
Some of them will not allow you to come in the clinic. You have to, like we have a drive up and take a number kind of thing at some of the restaurants.
Which I can understand with a large number of people coming in. So
yeah, it's something that I didn't expect, but what's happening right now is I'm getting a lot of referrals because people want to bring their pets into a vet and look at them while you're doing the exam and be in the room. So I offer that. One thing that's kind of a niche that I have right now is I actually certify all the people that work in the shelters in Alabama in euthanasia, which is, putting your animal to sleep, and they have to do that in the shelters. I offer that service in your home.
Oh, wow.
And so it's been very common, the situation where the veterinarians will ask the owners to leave their pet at the front door. It's very hard on them and the pet to be able to do that, especially it's the end of their life. And so
this grabs at your heartstrings is quite obvious. Having gone through that, that's not a fun topic. It's a very difficult situation, but it is I've learned it from a movie. Death is a part of life. When you have to make that final decision, that's extremely comforting to have it done. I know because of speaking from experience, because actually you came and put Jesse Lee down. What that would mean, not only in the everyday world, but under a pandemic. I can understand the need for that. When the pandemic hit, of course, we've always been above and beyond as far as our cleaning schedule is concerned, and we're low volume because we're a personal training facility, and so when we're slammed, even in our 8,500 square foot facility in Mobile, when we're slammed, we have 10 or 12 people in there, and we're able to space and what have you. But when it comes to this, I guess that's a lot more expensive to have a veterinary house call. Is that right? If you to go to their house than it is going to a regular vet?
It's so variable. It depends on where you go.
Right. But
in general, I'm priced as far as your routine vaccinations and exams and surgeries and things like that, very competitively with other veterinarians.
Okay.
So it's actually not more expense or anything.
You've got that personal service. You've also got that.
Sure.
You're not pulling up to your house and taking care of the whole neighborhood,
Right. And if you bring your pet to me, you're going to see me every time. You're not going to have somebody you've never seen before.
Sure.
I don't work with a technician or anything like that. People are like, what? Well, I've just gotten used to do that. Early on, I used to do emergency work, and, if I had to have a technician there, that came out of my paycheck. So money is a good motivator,
I understand. We're joking about that and the financial side of this, but I also know about the charity work that you've done. You've worked with some rather large agencies. I know you did some work in Katrina.
Well, Katrina was ASPCA in
Right.
Chalmette at the high school there, the Ninth Ward, which was badly hit. Work with HSUS very commonly as a
Humane Society
consultant.
of the United States. Okay.
Right. And so they will a lot of times have a situation where they need to seize several dogs.
Right.
And I've done probably 5 or 6 with them over the past 7 years. And the largest seizure was, I think, 135 dogs in southeast Alabama.
Wow. Was this a hoarding case, or was this a dog fighting case? Or?
It was an abuse case.
Abuse
it was
case.
a dog situation where they weren't feeding the dogs. And
Right.
in fact, that actually, when it went to court, I testified based on what I saw, but that testimony allowed them to prosecute this individual for torturing animals by withholding food. So that was never established in any kind of case law. So now it is.
Wow.
Nationwide. So if they go in and seize some dogs, if they starve them, they can actually be charged with a felony, and that makes a big difference in trying to keep that from happening again.
Sure. If anybody's interested in getting in touch with you, how do they contact you?
I actually have a website, vet2u.com. That's VET2YOU.com. That's probably the most common use of communication that I use. My phone number is area code 251-652-2222. If you don't get a hold of me on that directly, just leave a voicemail and I'll call you back.
I appreciate the story that you told me the other day, which gave me the idea for the podcast and what have you. And I got to tell you, so far, this is the most interesting location that I think I've ever conducted a podcast. So when we get back to some of the other warm months, I want to bring you back on the show. I want to talk to you about taking your pets out in weather and what have you, and those accommodations. But I can't leave my show without talking something about hydration. Is hydration important to pets? Just like I always say, it's important to humans. So am I right about that?
Absolutely, and especially in this environment, South Alabama, it's not really hard for an animal in a short period of time to overheat, especially if you're active with them outside. So I always tell people, think of those things. Make sure that you have water for both yourself and for your pet when you're out walking, and if you're out running or whatever else. Traveling is important part of people's lives a lot of times, and they don't have access to water. I always talk about quality of water with people, with owners, because a lot of people don't realize, especially if they live in a municipality, that water, although we can drink it, it may have several things that it's not tasteful for your pets.
Right.
And so heavy metals, iron, anything like that, and even well water, a lot of times, they don't get hydrated because they don't drink enough water because it doesn't taste good to them.
Oh, wow.
So I encourage people to use fountains, like I think the company called Pet Safe uses filters, charcoal filters and everything, and they filters the water as it goes through. Most bottled water has been filtered in some way or another, but I always tell people just don't feed it like out of the tap or out of a hose or anything, because there are some things that may inhibit their adequate intake of water.
If you're not watching that, then they can get dehydrated too. So see, it's not just humans here. If your dog can motivate you to get fit, maybe he motivates you to drink water. And as I always say, over 100 ounces a day, every single day of the week, recommended by the NIH, recommended by Mayo Clinic, or Cooper Clinic, by Harvard Medical, by Stanford Medical. I can go on for days, guys. I can. I appreciate you joining us on the show. And like I say, I may have you come back and talk about those other things.
Love to come back.
Part of it.
Thanks for having me.
If you have any other questions or need in touch with Mark or any questions about this subject, please feel free to contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. Also our website, personaledgefitness.com, and our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness. Taking care of your pet and making sure they're fit. One more way we help you with your level of wellness. Join us next week when we've got the guys from Refined PT going to talk to us about their unique approach to physical therapy, as well as their idea on the live Asian. I know you won't want to miss that. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251 888-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.